Get ready for one of history's wildest mysteries. On June 13th, 1908, a small Siberian village witnessed something that'll blow your mind. Literally, a colossal, glowing orb came zooming out of the sky at 7 a.m., making a thunderous boom as it hurtled towards Earth. Then, in an instant, a blast so immense occurred that it's equivalent to detonating TWOTHOUSAN nuclear bombs all at once. Talk about explosive. Buckle up. Newsflash, this massive event wasn't just loud and flashy, it had a global impact. The shockwave from that mind-boggling explosion was detected in locations all around our planet, showing us just how enormous the blast actually was. In the forest where the blast hit, flames engulfed everything instantly. But what's even stranger is that most of the trees within an area roughly 800 square miles ended up knocked down. Yet, some of those trees stood tall as if nothing happened. Now here's the really bizarre part. Despite reports of a meteorite crash, there was no crater and not a single fragment to be found at the alleged impact site. You're probably wondering how this colossal blast left behind such little evidence. It's one of the biggest mysteries out there. Well, today we're diving into not just that, but also some seriously cool questions like, what would happen if our planet got sucked into a black hole? Exactly how many mosquitoes does it take to set an entire forest ablaze? Spoiler alert, it's way more than you think. And we'll finally unravel the real story behind the Tunguska event. So, was it really just a meteorite burning up in the sky, or is there something even more mind-blowing going on? Let's find out. At first glance, you might think the Tunguska event was just a massive space rock tearing through our atmosphere. And it kinda looks that way, right? But wait, if it was just a regular old meteorite, we'd expect to see a crater similar to this one in Arizona. This is Meteor Crater, formed around 50,000 years ago from a meteor strike that was actually 3 times more powerful than the Tunguska explosion. So why don't we have a huge crater in Siberia? That's what makes this case so puzzling, and we're about to dig deeper to find out why. Here's the jaw-dropping part. That small Arizona meteorite packed an explosive punch of around 150 megatons. It may have been just 50 meters wide, but it blasted a crater over 1.2 kilometers across and 230 meters deep. So where's the massive crater from the Tunguska event? Well, let's take a look at Lake Cheko, about 8 kilometers from ground zero. Guess what? The lakebed looks suspiciously like a bowl, hinting that it might have been formed by the Tunguska blast or its leftover fragments. Could this be the crater we've been searching for, just underwater and hidden in plain sight? So, did Lake Cheko really form from the Tunguska blast? To find out, researchers dived deep into its bed deposits back in 2017. And what they discovered left them with more questions. It turns out this lake is at least 280 years old, ruling it out as a possible Tunguska crater. But here's the mind-blowing part. An object that could level a forest, light up the sky, yet leave no crater behind. Scientists now believe it was actually an asteroid that exploded mid-air. So, what might have caused this cosmic crash? Researchers think it could have been a regular stony asteroid called a chondrite, about 60 meters wide. It was traveling at an incredible speed of 15 kilometers per second when it burst into the air, roughly 10 to 15 kilometers above our planet. You'd expect some serious damage and maybe even leftover fragments. But here's the kicker. Scientists searched high and low, including Lake Cheko's bottom, and found zero evidence. This has led them to keep thinking about alternative explanations for this epic event, and one of those new ideas is still buzzing in 2020. Now let's dive into another mind-blowing theory from Sergei Karpov, a physics pro at Kerensky Institute of Physics. This guy knows his stuff. Karpov thinks maybe it wasn't just any ordinary stony asteroid that caused the Tunguska event. He believes it could have been an iron asteroid instead. Here's how his theory goes. The asteroid zoomed into Earth's atmosphere at a special angle, so it barely skimmed our planet's surface, and then took off back into space. This space rock would have been anywhere from 1 to 200 meters wide, and was likely zipping along at about 20 kilometers per second. It made its closest approach just around 15 kilometers above the ground in a sort of glancing blow, or what scientists call a tangential hit. So what might have triggered that massive explosion detected all over our planet? Karpov's idea is that it could have been the super-fast vaporization of the asteroid's surface as it burned up in Earth's atmosphere, sending shockwaves that were felt around the globe. So let's break down Karpova's theory. If an iron asteroid flew that close to Earth, it would have gotten scorching hot and lost about 500 tons of its surface material every single second. That intense heat could explain why we saw such a massive explosion, the glowing sphere in the sky described by some eyewitnesses, and also why there was no crater or leftover space rock fragments. But wait, this theory has one huge problem. An asteroid passing that close to Earth wouldn't be able to spark those enormous wildfires at the epicenter. So what else could have caused them? For many people who witnessed the Tunguska event, it felt like a sign of something much bigger and scarier, a possible doomsday. Little did they know, this enigmatic blast would end up being one of history's greatest mysteries. The Tunguska blast sent shockwaves not just through the air, but also through the local community. It inspired some folks to hit the road and seek spiritual refuge, either as pilgrims or by joining a convent. The sheer terror of that day kept many others away from the site for an astonishing 13 years. It wasn't until 1921 when a group of curious researchers dared to venture back into Ground Zero, but all they found was what remained of a decimated forest, not a single clue pointing to the cause of this cosmic event. So, is it possible that instead of looking up to space for answers, we should consider something much closer to home? The fiery sphere seen by those eyewitnesses could have been none other than ball lightning, a natural phenomenon that's left scientists scratching their heads for centuries. Ball lightning has been an enigma for centuries, leaving scientists with more questions than answers and not much progress in understanding what it truly is. Researchers have tried to recreate this rare phenomenon in controlled lab environments, but so far, no luck. Some theories suggest that ball lightning could ignite a fire when it explodes near the ground, causing massive destruction. Yet, would it be powerful enough to cause a blast detected on the other side of the globe? That's still up for debate, but here's where things get even more mind-blowing. This isn't even the most far-fetched theory out there. You won't believe this theory from Tunguska event researchers. They quipped that a swarm of 5 cubic kilometers of mosquitoes could have been behind the explosion. Sounds crazy, right? But if these tiny creatures somehow managed to gather in such massive numbers at the exact same spot, it might have triggered a thermal blast so powerful it could knock down trees, ignite huge fires, and even send shockwaves rippling across the globe. Can you picture it? Instead of a glowing orb, locals would have seen a 5-kilometer mountain of mosquitoes on that fateful Siberian morning. Who knows, maybe in some parts of Siberia, this is just another day at the office. You've seen some wild theories so far, but buckle up, things are about to get really cosmic. In 1973, 2 physicists dared to propose a notion that'll blow your mind. They thought the Tunguska event was caused by a teeny tiny black hole, which sounds like something out of science fiction. Here's the kicker. Scientists actually believe these microscopic black holes could be hiding in our galaxy. Some space explorers even suspect they're lurking in the Kuiper Belt, an icy neighborhood beyond Neptune. But here's where it gets truly mind-bending. According to Jackson and Ryan, this tiny black hole would have been just 0.15 nanometers, smaller than a single atom. Let's put some perspective on just how tiny these black holes supposedly were. To give you an idea, a black hole about 5 times our Earth's mass would be roughly as big as a fistful of marbles, fitting snugly in your palm, 4.5 centimeters to be exact. Now, imagine this teeny black hole slamming into our planet right where the Tunguska event happened. Scientists thought it might have even tunneled through Earth and popped out somewhere over the North Atlantic. But here's what's really wildy. If that were true, we'd probably see no signs of a typical meteor explosion. Just a hot, molten spot at the entry point. And as for witnessing an otherworldly spectacle, well, it's anyone's guess how visible that would be. So, let's revisit those tiny black holes. They'd actually be around 500 meters to 4 kilometers in diameter, roughly the size of a small town or even a few skyscrapers. If this miniature black hole really did tunnel through our planet, it would leave another anomaly at the exit point, possibly looking eerily similar to what happened over Tunguska. Fast forward to today, and many scientists lean towards the more plausible asteroid explosion theory for what happened back then. But here's the thing: that explanation can't account for all the strange occurrences reported on that day. So, is there another, even more mind-blowing answer waiting to be discovered? Here's an out-of-the-box theory for you. Imagine Siberia under a massive swarm of mosquitoes right before an iron asteroid was about to collide with our planet. The two crash, and in that impact, a teeny-tiny black hole is formed. It sucks up the asteroid fragments along with the mosquito remains, and then it's back into space. Gone. This wild scenario might just tie together all those bizarre Tunguska event occurrences in one go. Wouldn't that be something? Now it's time for a reality check, duel. Let's dive into the real science behind the Tunguska event. We've got a mystery that has puzzled scientists for over a century, and I want to hear your hypotheses. What do you think actually happened when that massive explosion rocked Siberia? Do you have any theories about what might have triggered it? Share them in the comments below.